It's about जो है वो है.
I always thought I was perfect. I was like, you know, I don't have issues. जो हुआ so हुआ, it's okay, it's in the past. Then you know, someone had to literally put their hand in my mouth. Bowl, bowl.
We're not able to make him understand that this behavior is not right. But I forgot that I also needed care.
And then I'm back to that phase again. And I tried so hard to open myself up, but I'm back to square one because there was no one to help me.
So the way that I've structured my life is this space is like base camp where I come and do everything else out of, and every day is like little exploratory workshop. These are my life now. They would get me out of bed in the morning. Don't you? Don't you, baby? Imlu? Say hello. Hi.
And then there was no one to ask because I'm always asking people, how are you, what's happening, tell me. And I tell people everything to me, but they never ask, how are you doing?
Words are not enough to explain how they're feeling. So that is when art comes in.
I love sketching. In fact, I first joined sketching to be around her in school.
Oh, I love this one. You have to see this.
I mean, for anyone who's getting back up, you know, you just got to slow down, take it a day at a time, and sometimes it's way better than doing it the other way around. Sometimes you just got to slow down and take it a day at a time. Sanu, Emily, come baby. Imlu, Hana. It's okay, Imlu. I was diagnosed in about 2006, and it was complete disbelief at first. For the first 5 years or so, I didn't even believe that there was anything seriously wrong, and especially when at some point of time the diagnosis came to bipolarity. Initially it was a shock because chronic incurable mental health condition in a world where your mind's all you have, and I live 95% of my life from the mind. Imru, okay, come. To have that hijacked was excruciatingly difficult. Because as an architect, for example, it's what you rely on. I mean, if I can't hold a design together in my head and walk through it, then I can't really be an architect. I can be in the most beautiful place in the world, but I feel nothing. I could be in the most horrible situation and it feels exactly the same. So there's no life, you know. It's just, I mean, even something as beautiful as smiling was an intellectually calculated decision, you know. And I've had phases like that as well. And till about 3 or 4 years back, treatment did not work for me. Medicine, I did all kinds of spiritual healings. I tried everything under the sun I could think of. You know, tried the self-help books, tried the medication, and finally tried to commit suicide. And it's something that's never been spoken about after that, at least by someone who formally should be doing so, be it family or doctors or anyone. My counselor now and me have spoken about it, but no one else.
There are darker aspects of personality where people, I mean, the most obvious manifestations are suicidal ideation, but people can have destructive patterns in relationships, And young people today are much more able of noticing these things in themselves. And I think that's a very big change. And it also speaks a lot about the kind of conflicts that they are facing, which is not always graspable by them, but which is something that makes them go towards a therapist or a psychologist for help. So they want an engagement which is a curious engagement. They don't want just to be shut down, or they want somebody to imagine with them what is happening to them, and that's important.
So my dad, he did not have a good connection with his mother because of the property issues and all, and I always thought that I could help him in some way, but I couldn't. He wasn't a regular in his employment. He stayed back home. He slept a lot. He couldn't talk to us for a while, and it was really painful to see him in the pain. And he would return back to alcoholism like time and again, but it was like really painful to see him go through that. And in the end, before his death, it was 3-month long like dark period when he wouldn't go anywhere outside, when he would stay at home and not talk to anyone, not even open the TV because it was too painful for him. So I was there with him. The last time he spoke to me, he said, "I'm sorry for everything." And it was really painful, I'm sorry. I still have nightmares.
It's a kind of a churning. So something in the lives of young people is undergoing a churning, which often is not just connected to them, but it's also connected to the pasts of their families. So we have so many different contexts of collective trauma that our country has witnessed, whether it's the partition or they can be other forms of collective traumas. And in some ways, today's generation has to process that trauma. And that is not something which the family always has to remember or consciously remembers, but it is transferred from one generation to another.
So I've never gotten a chance to talk about it. Sir called me last night.
We humans do not connect with perfectionism. We connect with shared struggles, weaknesses, and we bond over these things. And that's the basic part of human structure of our society. So here in Listening Circle, people first of all understand that there are people who are just there to listen.
Urban society like ours, in a place like Delhi, and especially, elite institutions at the school and the college level, that human connection is missing. And unless you have this feeling of being wanted and being loved, you don't feel yourself important. It affects your self-esteem, it affects your mental well-being, and that's a kind of a space which we are lacking, where you don't feel loved, you don't feel wanted, because everything is judged on the basis of what you are, how well you are performing, what kind of a good student you are, how you are shining in terms of your performance, accomplishments.
Come. One water, I'll give you water. Chalo, we'll get you water, Baba. You don't have to drink at the time.
I'd grown up pretty much excelling at any and everything I wanted to. There were 2 incidents in my life where I didn't get exactly what I set out to be, and I was devastated both times. And you feel belittled, your faith is taken away, and it's a lot of trauma, but it doesn't need to be. I had 4 guards manhandle me, tie me to a metal bed, strip me, and inject me with something that had me in an emotional and mental stupor for days after. I passed out and I woke up. I don't know when I woke up. It was that day or the next day, or It's just a big fog in my head those few days. And
Ibu, come in. No. No. We're gonna play first. Where do you wanna go?
because I was on their side of the fence, and I was just a person. I was just a person who'd set out a few days back to, you know, a step or two away from the pinnacle of his life. And that's where I ended up. And it hurt tremendously, of course, to see what was happening in there. There were no toilet seats. People were. You had to. It was hell. It was hell. And those memories of being tied up and what was done to me while I was tied up, and yeah.
The issue is always on fixing the individual, and that is a very damaging and a very reductive way of looking at mental health, because mental health, although it can affect one person, it is never really caused just by that one person alone. So we need to start really calling a spade and saying, you know, this is what is broken. Societies are broken, the healthcare systems are broken, and therefore it's not a plague, it's all these broken systems leading to broken people.
Like, I have had two of my students here whom I knew as very good, brilliant students, but I would never know the kind of struggle they also have been going through in their own lives. So unfortunately, how it happens in a highly materialistic society, which India is moving towards now, there is so much of a disconnect at the personal level.
Feeling and seeing people really being insensitive about this. After all the healing, growing up, taking care of myself, I realized that to really heal and to really understand this whole thing, I really need to go out in the world and shout it at the top pitch of my voice and let people know that they are not alone. So I started listening circles because I realized there are no support groups in India.
Astonished at how little help there seems to be for people. That's the first thing. I think the second thing is how scarring the families can be to the girls, to the people who came. How, you know, the alcoholism and depression and schizophrenia, and the lack of treatment for them and the stigma has this terrible effect on these young women who've got to bear this and young men, I suppose, too, who have to find a way without, you know, on their own resources, without much apparent help, which is very different from the UK, where I think everybody would know many ways to find help, either through the National Health Service and also through where you can get anything from, you know, unsympathetic medication and overzealous diagnosis to now what's being prescribed is, you know, knitting circles and golfing holidays and things. So there's a great range of treatments available. Self-help, then if you want to pay for counselling, it's easy to find a counsellor for about £45. People go, well, I think all my friends have been to see counsellors. And I think there's much less stigma attached.
So you feel safe that you put it out in the open with nobody.
My mother being schizophrenic, me growing up in an environment where it was hard to talk about this and hard to let people know what does it really mean.
The fact that people are talking about it and not ashamed about it is a very good sign, and people want to also put across the fact that it's not just the fact that we are suffering, but there is meaning to our suffering.
These are all memories of different times in college. That's how with the kitten that we had adopted. I was not the problem. That's the day I got my hair cut. How I fit or misfit into my life was the problem. It was a complete mismatch of who I was and where I was, who I was and who I had to be, how I felt and how I had to pretend to feel. And that's what was just draining the living daylights out of me.
I feel like I don't think my mother would ever have acknowledged that she is going through some issues. She would just be labeling it like, family matters hai, it's okay, it happens. Like now we take like these things as issues, like which they are, but they don't used to like recognize these things.
If the stigma is still there in the workplace, in families where they will shove labels under carpets, they won't want to talk about it, till that is removed, until we can talk freely about mental health just as we can talk about a broken leg or something that you can see, the stigma is going to be there.
It's always harder to tell your loved ones what you're going through when it concerns them as well, because emotions and mental health is not looked as a sign of strength. We always have this like conflicting ideas. Like my parents are like, we are poles apart. So we sometimes we don't know like which is the right thing. Are they right or am I right?
So I feel that we live in a world which is much more liberal, but that openness also creates conflicts for which we don't always have answers. And young people also have the burden of dealing with those conflicts. And those conflicts are not always understood in the same way by their parents or the generation around them.
Is every time the elders in the family preach religion to me and tell me about the enlightenment of the Prophet and how God's angels came to him in a cave. I turn around and say, listen, today that guy would be in the isolation room next to me. So what are we talking about?
What do you think? Who's right?
I feel there are situations when they are right, and I feel they should try and listen to me, to like every parent should listen to their children, like how they go about things, how they feel about themselves, how they feel about the society, their ideas, their opinions. I feel my mother is really good at this, and like she's changing with time. At least she's open to ideas.
Parenting has changed. Parents allow a lot more opportunities to their children than they themselves had opportunities, and on the positive side they would allow them to go into zones that they themselves did not have the space to go into. Having relationships before having a formal commitment has become more permissible, but all these zones are also ridden with a lot of conflict that the young person has to deal with.
How our parents also were brought up, even though we have joint families, but everybody is putting up a facade. Nobody is really talking to each other. Why will not that be a lonely life? So if you're not able to do that with your children, with your spouse or your partners or your parents, you are living a lonely life.
He didn't know that I had gone through this. It was really surprising that he would call me out of the blue and just tell me to come here. And I said, maybe I won't share. Maybe I won't do anything. After listening to you and seeing that you might understand what I'm going through. So I'm going to share. I'm sorry.
It's okay. That's what we are here for.
It gave me this sense of satisfaction, like that I could tell someone my story. Like there was this girl who was my junior. I had never met her earlier, but now I feel I like know her. Like I whenever I would like look at her, I know her. So I am not alone. And even if it happened to her and it happened to me, and it is the saddest thing ever. She's dealing with it as well. So the courage of opening up comes from there. It becomes a shared struggle.
पुराना गाना है कि तुम बेसहारा हो तो किसी का सहारा बन जाओ, अपने आप सहारा मिल जाएगा। किश्ती कोई डूबती किनारे लगा दो तो अपने आप किनारे लग जाएगा, अपने आप किनारा मिल जाएगा। तो you know, when you become a support to someone, it's such an empowering feeling, and you find that it's not you who needs support, everybody needs support.
And you have the power to change. If I take care of myself really well, I'll be able to take care of others also. So be kind. I don't know, it's not a mountain, it's a Tila. Let's call it Manju. It's forgiveness. This is physical representation.
How the boy is running through the forest when a tiger starts chasing him. And as he's running, he climbs up a tree. And he runs right into a swarm of bees. He's exhausted and he sees a well in front of him. So he jumps into the well. As he's jumped into the well, he sees that the bottom is dry and there's 2 snakes there. And then he asked me, what do you think happened? I said he didn't make it. Obviously, one of these things got him. And he said no. The bees got after the tiger, stung the tiger. The tiger jumped into the well to get away, fell on the snakes and killed them, and died himself. The bees dispersed and he climbed out and walked away. What's the moral of the story? The moral is when everything is going against you, just hold on, because it will get better and they'll take care of each other. And that's what got me through, and that's exactly what happened.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.